Okay, guys, is everyone ready to kick this off? Yeah, everyone got the file up? No, do you want to get the files up, guys? Yeah. Thank you. So, the bunker, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no. Let's trim this first. If you could just open both of them, the first one we're going to look at is the survey one, so Storeys tutorial survey. Okay. Let's change the brightness. Let's just get. Okay, guys. So we're going to run through Storeys. The idea is that we'll do a kind of basic overview of Storeys this session, and then we'll just take some feedback on specific items that you'd like to maybe cover in the future that are maybe a little bit more complicated, because there is quite a lot to cover and a lot of things that we are still figuring out that we'll need to kind of review as we move forward. I'm going to start off and show you how to set up the actual stories and the layers, and then Max is going to take over and talk you through some of the things that you can do when you're drawing walls and slabs and spaces, etc. So I guess the first thing to start off by saying, has everyone used Storeys? Has everyone had a go at using Storeys at least? I'm using them right now. Right now, good. So Storeys is basically a collection of layers, and it means that we can change the levels of the stories, and all the layers will kind of change with it. So rather than having to manually edit a couple of layers, say you had a ceiling layer and a finished floor level, you could just change the story level, and then all the other layers will also change above it. So if we had a ground first and second, and you change something on the ground floor, the levels above the first and second would also change. So by getting into the habit of using Storeys, we can hopefully speed things up when we're editing buildings, or if the client wants to change the story heights or the floor to ceiling heights or any of these things. One thing to just bear in mind is that although we've got the power to collect together lots of different layers, so like we could, in theory, have a story with 100 layers in it, you probably don't want to do that because it's going to make modeling things really complicated. You want to try and keep it to the bare minimum number of layers and story levels, and to get the work done. It's kind of on a project by project basis what's appropriate, and you kind of need to think about how you might split the work up if lots of people are working on the file, but just you don't really want to be creating layers just for the sake of it. If you can do it on one layer, that's better. So if we so everyone understands basically what Storeys are. Was that a token overview, I guess? Good. So first of all, we'll talk through the survey file and how you might set that up. And we've done a bit of setting up of this beforehand just to speed things up. And then we'll go through a proposed file and kind of referencing it in, and the things you might do to change things. So if I just come out of here a second, what you'll see is we've got, in our layers palette, we've got a ground floor setup, an OS map, and a site model. Okay, and if I just look at it in 3D, I've already drawn the site model, and you'll see that on the ground floor, there's a couple of walls. So this is like the survey of our existing bunker. And at the minute, because we've not got the right stories set up, they've not got a height because they're set to snap automatically. So if we just go into the story settings a second, which you can do by double clicking this little icon here, or you can right click and go details, or you can click your organization palette up here. We can see in our stories, we've got 2 stories set up at the minute. Has everyone found the stories tab, by the way? Yeah. So we've got an OS datum, okay, which is set to 0. And then we've got a ground floor level, which is set to the level that is outside of our existing building. At the minute, this is 22 meters above the OS datum. So if we imagine that we get some information from a surveyor or from ProMap, that will have some level data on it. I'd create my site model, and then if I zoom in, I can see I've got my site benchmark here, which says 22,000 millimeters above the OS datum. So that's how I'm setting up my file. And that means that if we share this model with anyone else, they know exactly where the building's located in space, and that can help them understand our thinking. Within the ground floor, we've got one layer at the minute, so we've got structural slab, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a first floor layer that our walls can snap to. So to create a new story, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create new. Okay, I'm going to create the name 01-first floor. And I'm going to give it a story elevation. So I'm going to give it 22,000 plus. I'm going to say this has got a 2.5 meter floor to floor height. So I can just do that calculation in the box there and it will work it out. I'm going to give it a prefix, which is 01, which complies with our standards. And for the minute, I'm just going to deselect all these default layers. If you create these default layers too early, it sort of confuses it a bit, and I'm just trying to take you through it in steps. As you get more comfortable with stories, you might be able to do that. So I'm just going to click OK. It's going to ask me if I want to create a story that contains no story layers, and I'm going to click yes. Okay, so is everyone?
You say yes.
Yeah, you can click yes to that, that's fine. Okay, so then if I go back to my design layers, I'm going to create my new layer that's going to be attached to this story. So if I create a new design layer, I'm going to go 01 first floor, and I'm going to go underscore E, because it's an existing level and it's something we've drawn, not something that our surveyor's drawn. I'm going to check edit properties after creation as well at the bottom here. Okay. Okay, is everyone up to this stage? Bottom left of that little first dialog box. There's like a little checkbox, and you have to check it. I don't know why they don't just combine them into one screen. It's so much easier. Have you found it, Becky? If you have a slot in one, you can just right click on that. Sorry, you can just right click. Oh, is that? Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, save box. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've got our story here. So it's easy. We can select the first floor that we just created. And then the important thing that every layer has a story level. Story levels are what Vectorworks uses to recognize the different types. And that is how we would snap walls and slabs and spaces and stairs to the layer. And that's what gives us the kind of speed and efficiency of using stories. If you don't assign anything to this, Vectorworks won't be able to recognize it as something that like stairs could snap to, for example. What we've done is we've set up some default story layers in the template files. So the survey template has some standard level types, finished floor, structural slab, roof and ceiling. They have default heights above the story level. And they've got the B prefix as well, because you can't have you can't have story levels that have the same name in sort of multiple files. So this, if you gave it just finished floor without giving it that B suffix, it would cause some issues later on. So I'm going to choose finished floor as my story level type. Okay, has everyone followed that? We could, as this is a one-story building, what we could do is we could choose roof as an option. One thing you'll find is that if you choose roof for your top layer and you're copying walls up between stories, when you copy them onto your top floor, the snaps will break because there's not a slab above it, there's a roof above it. So although it's not, I guess, best practice, it is much quicker if you just give everything a kind of a generic story level type, so finished floor or slab, so that if you are kind of copying things up between stories, it's quick and easy for you to snap stuff. I've had a look in when you export as an IFC, it doesn't seem to carry this information over, so it's more for our benefit. Anyway, we'll click OK, and we'll click OK in here. And if we go back to our 3D view, we should see, oh, it's not, damn. So we'll just select our walls and we'll choose, oh, it's because I went finish floor. Yeah. So you just, with your walls palette, you've got your height information over here if you've selected those walls, and you just need to change top bound to finish floor. I tried to be all organized and I've messed it up, and you can now see that these walls have got a height. Okay, so has everyone understood that? Is everyone sort of followed? Has anyone got any questions? Okay, so if we just save that, and then we'll go to Stories New. So open it if you've not opened it yet, or just click across to the tab. Okay, is everyone's got that? So in Stories New, if you go to your reference panel, okay, and we've already got the reference set up. So if you just right click that and click edit, and then we'll just check these layers. So site model, ground floor and first floor. And we'll leave all the other settings the same. You can see we've now brought in our contours, and we've brought in our little walls, our bunker. We can probably turn the bunker off for now, but we'll just look at it in 3D, and you can see that this is these are off. So this is our file from last time when we did the slab wall intersection junction. So what we're trying to recreate here is a situation where you might be working on a feasibility job, you might just have an OS plan, and you might just be working at ground level, and then the client says, yeah, let's go ahead with it. You might buy all the information, get a survey, and you now need to set your work that you've already done to the new levels. You don't want to have to redraw everything. You want to just be able to kind of import it and bring it there. So first of all, we'll just turn off the first and the ground floor, get rid of our bunker. Next thing to do is to go into our stories pane. So right click again, go details. Okay. And we'll go to stories. And what we can see is that our ground floor is just set at our default level, which is 1 meter above the OS datum. We've got a first floor and a second floor that we set up for the last thing. And all we need to do now is we need to go to ground floor. We need to click edit down here, bottom left. And we just need to change that to 22,000, which is the sort of datum level of our site. And then you'll get another box that says change story elevation, and it gives you different options. So in this instance, we want to move this story and all the stories above it up. If you were just editing one story and that was independent of all the others, you could just change that one on its own, but this one will automatically bump everything up and keep the same relationships. So we still keep the 3 meter floor to floor heights that we set up last time. And you can see it's now changed here. So we've got our little man, and we've got 2 meters, and then we select the next story, first floor. You can see we've just got one set up. If we click OK, we can see that our building's automatically jumped up and now sits on top of the site. Okay, so has everyone followed that? Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a couple of new layers so that we can have a go at setting up some layers and some stories. And we're going to look at the sort of scenario you might have where you might be working on 2 buildings within the same site. So like Crown Street springs to mind. It's one we've got some flats and we've got some house, and they've both got quite different levels within them. So what we'll do is we'll set up a new story level, and we can set it up so it'll still be part of the ground floor story, so that when we export to other consultants, it recognises that. But we can set it up so that there's different, it's got a different height and it sits above the ground. So we're going to imagine we're going to have a little shed in the back garden that we're going to be working on. So if we go back into our story settings, so right click, details. Okay. And in our design layers, we're going to click new, and we're going to call this 00-ground floor _ shed. And it's important when you're naming this that we choose a name that you can keep throughout the whole project, because all of the files need to have exactly the same story names, the same layer names, and the same level types. Otherwise, things start to go wrong further down the line. It's important that you kind of identify it. So for the Crown Street example, it might be ground floor underscore houses, ground floor underscore flats. For something else, it might be like the north block, south blocks. You might go ground floor north, ground floor south, etc. So we click OK. We're going to put it onto our first floor story.
Ground floor.
Thanks, Max. Ground floor. And we're going to put it onto another story level. So I've preset this up, and we'll maybe just have a quick go at setting a new one up if we want on the next version. But we've got finished floor shed, and I've set that 500 millimeters above the ground floor level. So we can just select that, and you can see the elevation below has automatically put it 500 millimeters relative to the story. So we'll click OK, and then we'll create a new one, which is going to be our first floor shed for our roof. So we'll go first floor underscore shed, edit properties after creation. We're going to put this on the first floor, and this time, rather than using the one I've already set up, we're going to create new story level, and we're going to choose level type. We're going to choose it as, you can either do new level type here, and you can type in a name. Again, you've got to remember this has got to be consistent throughout the project. We could choose one of the default ones we've already set up, so structural slab roof. So for this one, why don't we choose roof, and then we can give it a elevation relative to the story. So we're going to choose that to maybe 750. So you can see that we can have different relationships to our stories. It doesn't always have to be the same as you work in different zones. Yes, that was it. So I'll go back, we'll go edit, roof, you click new story level, and then I chose roof here, and I typed into elevation 750. Is that follow? Okay. No, it's fine. So I've already done that, so it's not okay. Click OK. Yeah, so I guess a few things. I'm just about to pass over to Max. I'm just gonna, you're right back. Yeah. So if we go back to our stories pane now, what we can see if we click on our ground floor, and this is a really good panel to get used to because it does display things quite clearly. You can see we've got our ground floor and we've got our structural slab, and then you can see your finished floor of your shed is like 500 mil above it, and you've got a little arrow. But if we go to our second floor, we can see we've just got the roof level in there. First floor, we've got roof, structural slab. I click OK, and back to this screen. So just to reiterate, it's really important to set a level type for each story, and those level types need to be different for every layer that you create. So if you've got multiple zones, if you split your files up into zones, you might need to go like have like an interior suffix to it or something along those lines. The other thing to think about is at sort of planning stage, you probably want to work to the finished floor as your slab level, as your datum level for the story. But as you move to construction and you start to choose your construction types and you set your sort of build-ups, you kind of want to fix your slab at an early stage, and then you may find that you're certainly on lots of projects we've worked on. We all know that we're kind of faffing around with underfloor heating and different build-ups and acoustic layers, but at the same time they've already built those slab levels. So to save yourself a ton of work, it might be good to set the stories to a slab level and then allow the finished floor level to kind of change ever so slightly by maybe plus or minus 20 mil on top of that. And then the other thing, I guess, is you can set story levels without a layer that allows you to snap things to a level without you having to draw on a new layer. You can draw it on the same level. I think Max might touch on that briefly. No? Yeah. So yeah, any questions on that bit? No? Okay, great.
Right. So now that Alan's set up the design layers with the assigned story levels, and we're going to draw this ancillary space, this shed. So, but before we do that, so we can see what's going on, can we just draw a section through the site? So if we create section viewport, We won't send it to a sheet. We'll keep this in the model space just for the purpose of this presentation. So if we draw it through, and up comes your menu, and it asks you where you want to send it to. If we just say new design layer for now, call it sections XX if you want to do it properly. But yeah, export. I mean, this is just to see, so you can see how things moving when you adjust the level types. So yeah, we'll. Yeah, so it's sections and display flattened. There's a little toggle. It should be hidden line. And when you OK that, it should pop up so you can see the section through your site. If you just scroll up. Does everyone see it? Someone see a section? Right. So yeah, let's get designing this shed. So if we select the wall tool, actually first of all, click the correct design layer that you're working in, which is the ground floor shed. And we'll draw it behind the house and go for it. Use your artistic.
You have a prize for the best shed
Yeah,
at the end of this.
I'm going to go like this. I'm going to trim that. No, I'm not. Sorry. There's my shed. Has everyone got a shed? All the walls drawn? Okay, yeah. So if we select the bottom bound is on the lower elevation, the top bound should be, well, we'll leave it at structural. We could leave it at any of these because there isn't anything above, but we could assign them to structural slab above. I think that's probably the most sensible thing.
Well, the roof was the actual layer of the shed roof that I set up.
Right. Okay. So it has to be roof story above.
But if you wanted to just set it to the
top offset should be 0 because we don't want a top offset. So that's fine. Let's have a look at it in 3D. So we should have. Let's just move this out of the way. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, do we want to draw a roof?
Yes, sure.
Right. Okay. No, we'll draw a slab first. Yeah, we'll draw a slab. Actually, I'm just going to join my my walls because they're not joined. Then I'm going to select the slab tool. I was just talking to Holly about this. You can flood it, or you can pick the walls. I'm going to flood the space, and then let's make sure that the Z reference in the palette box is at structural slab. You'll select that. Let's check if that's in place. No, that's if you select finish floor shed for the Z set, and that should, it says, should be in place. I think it's not.
Probably it's why I turn off the section there, the visibility, because
it's that. Oh, it's there. No, it's there. It's just not. It's just because.
So why we turn off the site model as well, and you can see it.
Well, I mean, it's quite clear if you're looking in section. If you're looking at the section, we can adjust the heights there. Right. So let's choose the spaces tool and draw a space. Again, you can flood the building, and this is where it gets interesting because you want to show 3D. If you scroll down in your option box, and if you notice it says what the volume is displaying, whether it's gross or net. We'll keep it on gross, and we will. There isn't a ceiling.
You can just see roof story above, and then that's not through.
Right. Okay.
Or you can set up a ceiling.
Yeah, we could set up a ceiling story level, which is actually more accurate thing to do. But for now, we'll just select roof story above.
So can everyone see here how Max has got a space which we set to roof story above, and that's poking out from the walls because the walls are set to finished floor above.
Okay, if you select the space,
Yeah.
and go to the object palette, try. There might be an offset. No, there isn't. Yeah, thanks. Cheers. If you open up the Storeys palette box and we go to first floor,
So you choose gross.
or we go to edit,
And you go, yes.
if you toggle on ceiling,
So you could.
if you can
With
see
net,
the
you
story
can set
level,
that
if you
to-
toggle that on and okay
So
that,
you set net, which means the roof.
you'll see how it's appeared in this
Story.
section palette box here.
Yeah.
We should now be able to sort of assign that space correctly to the. Sorry.
What was yeah, space. I think you've got the offset. So what you can do is, yes, you've got an offset, so you can snap it to a boundary, and you can say, right, I'm going to set
Where's my
that
space
for
on
5 years,
3D?
which is useful.
You have to toggle on
Parallel.
show 3D in the object info.
Is
Is that on?
What is the display? Gross. You guys. Are we there? All right. Okay, so that's fine.
Well, yeah, the section is horizontal.
Yeah,
No,
God, lost the one because I'm having to turn around.
Whereabouts are
I
you?
know how to think of practicing.
Oh, that's that one.
No, like as I said, my space is projecting higher than snapping to the top of the slab, so I've opened up the palette, the level palette box, and I've added a story height of the ceiling. So in here, in the stories, I toggled on the ceiling. And now it shows in the section palette box, and you should be able to snap to that. So if I go to ceiling, it should, ceiling above, sorry, ceiling on this design there, and there you go. It's
So with the space boundary, you can set your net height to be snapping to the roof or your slab above, and you can set your gross boundary to be, that's the right way of net gross.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
You can set it to be ceiling, so you can see, you can have two different calculations based on the kind of void above. That's a bit
That's a bit
complicated,
fancy, yeah.
but, it's the kind of split.
What we could do at this stage, we could add an object, let's say some furniture. If you open up the resource browser, if you've got access to the resource browser, and in any of the folders really, I'm in the subscription libraries folder, and there's an object building furnishings there. So I'm just going to have a look through the chairs and drop a chair in. I don't know what type of chair. Okay, well, if you could find some other objects, yeah, you could find some objects. I have all your libraries there. Styles, default, yes. Look for an object.
I think it's
Some furniture. Yeah, cabinets, anything, chairs. I'm not sure if anyone's got access to this folder, but I'm going to drop one in just to show you how the objects in the new Vectorworks snap to story levels. So here it's got a Z reference, and you can. Nice. Yeah, I'm going to assign it to finished floor shed. So objects can now be assigned to story levels. So you could have light fittings, you could have furniture, and instead of having to go around and manually move them if they're not showing you a section correctly, you can just assign them to a story level. I'm going to put some lights in just to show you how they work as well. I did have some likes before, I just got to find them.
We'll record again. So hopefully.
So I've lost track of where the lights are stored.
Yeah.
Yes, bear with me a second.
Yeah,
Okay, I found the pendants in the objects in the resource browser. So I'm gonna dump one of these in
yeah.
just to show you how they sit. So if I can just put one in there, and again, they can be attached to a reference, a Z reference, a level, story level height. So I've attached those to the ceiling. And if I go back to my section, which I've turned off just for the purpose of this, I'll just move it slightly. Turn on the section and potentially update it.
Your space.
Space, yeah. If I turn off the spaces, thanks, Elmo. I'm just going to delete the space for now because we've gone through that. But, should be showing. No, it's not.
Probably that.
It might be a depth thing.
Yeah.
Could be. Let's have a look. No, it says infinite. It's not that. Display planar objects. That's strange.
Classes.
Potentially. It might be something to do with the fact.
Yeah, it's on a class. It's not.
Yes, that's turned off. Right. Okay. So if we just go to classes, make sure that they're all turned on, because when you create a viewport and anything new in a viewport, they turn off. So all these down here should be turned on. So when I update that, it should be showing a chair and a light. But if we go into the Storeys palette box again and edit something like the finished floor, shed height. So if you go to edit, select the finished floor shed and change that, or we'll have to click edit level and change that to, say, 1,000. And the ceiling we could change to, say, let's make it grand, 4 meters. Okay to that. And then update the section. You see how the slab, the chair, and where the walls are assigned to jumped up in relation to the main building, and the light fitting too. Unfortunately, we don't have another slab with a ceiling just to show you how that would sit, but that is sitting where the ceiling would sit if there was a slab there. So it gives you kind of control over, rather than having to do things manually, if these things are done initially, so it's easier to modify your model and from one place rather than lots of from sort of going around and then clicking things manually and offsetting and what have you. If I go back to my model, turn off the sections, you can, these are assigned to a top bound, but if you had something where your walls, you can offset them manually. So you can top offset them by 1,000. Sorry, that's 100,000, which I think we're all comfortable with. But they could also be assigned to a level. But like Alan says, you don't want to overcomplicate things and have lots of story levels in the model because it gets quite complicated keeping track of stuff. So you might want to do that manually.
Do you use it for a parapet?
Yeah,
So
like a parapet,
over
yeah.
sailing type?
Yeah, I mean, I was having a discussion today where you might actually have a separate wall type if it's officially above a story, and you could top offset it, or you could have another wall type there drawn on that design there. But for parapets, it's a strange one because they're offsets, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not their own. They kind of fall into the roof design there.
Cool. Does everyone Is that anything else, Max?
That's it.
I think that was really good. Has anyone got any questions for Max?
I couldn't get my thing to say.
Well, quick look at that. Okay. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. That hopefully gives you a bit of an overview of like what you can do with stories. And the thing to remember is that there's kind of different ways of accomplishing the same thing. So you do need to maybe just think about it on a project by project basis. What is the right way of setting up the stories for that project? Depending on like what levels you have, what are the existing levels or manner of things. If you do need to sort of talk about the best way to set up them, feel free to grab any of the BIM teams, so like Kate and Jose or Max and myself, and we can talk it through with you. We'll try and we're going to run a maybe slightly more advanced session where we look at using the components in the future. So what I'll do is I'll put a sheet on the table there. If anyone feels that there wasn't anything sort of covered that they'd like to sort of go over in specifically about stories, then maybe write it on there, and I'll kind of pick that up on Friday, and we'll just kind of factor that into the planning of the workshops going forward. Yeah, thanks for listening. Yeah, so we'll have the video. We can follow that. Video. Yeah, hopefully. The long unedited director's cut.
Can't just stop it.
Did that work?
I don't know, did it actually start in the first place?
Where's it gone?
Hang on, it started at 9. Oh, start.
Is it down here somewhere?
Did you click?
I clicked get started, yeah. Because we had the different screen, didn't we? We had
This is it now.
Oh, no.
Here it is.
Oh,
Is that it's live, isn't it?
it's
So
live.
how do we then?
It's live. Oh, right. Cool.
Started streaming 37 minutes ago.
Yeah, so we streamed it.
What happens if you click that
Info.
thing? Yeah.
Started at 4:04,
Yeah.
so it's still going.
Oh, it's still
so-
going. So could you then end it?
I know.
No,
No.
But how do we need to save it?
save changes. Click back. There's another one here, test. Oh,
That's the one that I
No.
created.
oh, come
Because it
on.
should have that window. I don't know.
Completed.
So we need to complete an event maybe, and then it's available.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
go
is
to
it that?
live control.
Yeah.
No.
Average. No, that's no one's watched it basically.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look.
Oh,
Live now. Yeah.
resume.
Resume
Yeah.
hangout on air.
And then
No, we'll put that. Hang on. This was. Good highlight. Public view. Oh, so we need to create. Highlights can only be created when synced to preview player option. What's that? It's a view on the watch page. Can we go to watch?
It's just there.
it's just saving it. How about
No, that's our channel, isn't it?
It's done then.
It's like 500 mil above it, and you've got a little arrow. But if we go to our second,
Yeah, it's all there.
it's there. It's just. Well, we can set up our own channel, and we can like make loads of money from having a Vexworks YouTube. Get a cease and desist letter from Vexworks. Like, oh, these are rubbish.
Can we just see that sheet?
Yeah, there is, mate. I don't know how to. Okay, well. So is there are there any other windows?
Oh, there we go.
Stop broadcast.